Hello there, bem-vindos and welcome to my review of Road 96. I want to start this off by thanking André Viana for lending me this game because prior to him talking about this game, I knew nothing about it. So this is an indie game. It has a very interesting and unique art style. And honestly, Andre just came up to me and he was like, I think this is your kind of game. And my reaction was a little bit like, what do you mean by that? But I was really curious because he said I would definitely enjoy it, and he was very right. I knew nothing of this game prior to playing it. I had never heard of the game before, didn't know a lot about the concept because he explained to me a little bit about it, but trying to avoid giving too much away so I could enjoy the story blindly, and it was such a marvelous experience. Let's go into it. I will warn that for anyone that is interested in playing Road 96, this review will have spoilers, of course, because this is one of those games where even though I will praise the gameplay, it's not the gameplay that is the focus, it's the storytelling and the story behind it. So be warned. So Road 96 seems to have a very simple plotline. You are in what seems like some kind of dictatorship. So on the surface, everything seems to be more or less fine, but people's basic liberties are taken away, and there are also problems with some people lacking money, lacking resources, because of course everything is going towards the governor of this land, which is Tyrek. And it's actually funny because, his name kind of makes you think of a tyrant, someone that is, making his laws above everyone else's. So, not sure if it's on purpose or not, but that's what it makes me think of. And there's a rising problem during this dictatorship because, of course, to preserve the laws that are implemented in this kind of government, the borders are closed. And, of course, there's a lot of people that are not happy with the system and they at least want out. These escapes are being made mostly by teenagers. So there's a rising on the news about teens just going up the borders and trying to escape. So security is very tight around the borders. You play as those teens, and I do mean it in the plural. So you play up, I'm not sure if it's always 6, but I'm gonna assume so. You play as 6 different teens, and you don't really have a lot of background for the teens, and honestly, it doesn't really matter because you only have one objective. It's for you to make your way wherever you are, for you to make your way to the border and escape. Of course, you have all the obstacles and the interactions with the characters while you are trying to make your trip because you're a teenager. You don't have a lot of resources. Maybe you have some pocket money for you to maybe grab a cab, ask for a ride, take the bus. Those are all options you can have. Sometimes you can hitch a ride from someone and you will meet through these rides, and sometimes on the other transportations you will meet certain characters that reappear. So throughout all gameplays, I guess your decisions do dictate what characters you encounter, but you have some recurring ones. You have Alex. Alex is this kid that his mother, Fanny, is a cop, and she's very overprotective. You will discover as you talk with him and you get a better relationship with him that he's actually adopted, and he is doing works for the brigades, which are kind of a rebel group that is trying to end the dictatorship that is happening, and he is doing odd jobs for them because he's a very smart kid in exchange for information on his biological parents, because he has kind of a weird relationship with his mother. his adoptive mother, because it's not like he likes her, but at the same time he feels like she is hiding from him the truth about his parents. So yeah, you have that plot line about Alex. You have Zoe. Zoe also has an interesting background because she's actually the daughter of a politician, not Tyrek. I think it's the Minister of Voil, if I'm not mistaken. And she's trying to live this kind of hippie life because she doesn't agree with the political situation of the country, and even though she's in a privileged position, she wants to help teens escape because she understands that the country doesn't have a future, even though she has access to everything. You also have John. John is a truck driver and has connections to the brigades, to this revolutionary group. You also meet Sonia, which is interesting because she's the character that is more connected to the political system, to the dictatorship, because she's a news anchor and she does all these news, always trying to give a good perspective on the government that is now on Tyrek. And I didn't like Sonia. I always dreaded the time that I spent with her. But if you talk with her, you will see that she also has her own worries, her own motivations. They did try, I couldn't really sympathize with her character, but they did try to give a little bit of context and show you that it's not as black and white as it seems. You also have Jared. Jared is the most weird character. It's so weird to interact with him because I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be some kind of murderer or extremist. It's been a while since I played the game, so I cannot remember the finer details. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be someone dangerous, and I assure you, the game makes the encounters with Jared very, very tense. I was always on the edge of my seat whenever I was talking with him because I felt like if I said something wrong, he would kill me right then and there. You also have this duo of, I think it's Mitch and I honestly can't remember, I forgot their names, but it's these two bandits that are always trying to either rob or something like that. And honestly, I'm not sure what they are even doing. I think they are doing crimes just for the sake of doing them. They are not actually bad people, but they are kind of a hindrance and annoying at times. They are also funny, but I found them more annoying than funny most of the time. But yeah, they are kind of idiots as well. So if you have good persuasion when choosing your answers, you may sometimes make them believe in what you're saying, even if you're bluffing. So yeah, it's an interesting interaction, but also they are kind of annoying and obnoxious at times. So yeah, you have this group of characters that are recurring, and they will appear while you are trying to do your trip towards the border with the 6 teenagers that you are allowed to play with. And you can always choose different conditions for the teenagers. So whenever you start, let's say, a playthrough of one of the teenagers, you always choose at what distance they are from the border, how many money they have. I think it's like a stat of HP, like hunger or something like that, at what point they are. You have like 3 teenagers that you can always choose from. And I think I would always try to pick more or less the ones that were, well, of course I also try to do a balance. There's not like a perfect situation, but I tried to always choose the teenager that was the closer to the border and had some pocket money, because even though money isn't really you can come by some money and you can get out of certain situations even without the money. It is helpful to have some for negotiations and to acquire certain things, because you also need healing items to kind of get rid of your tiredness, because doing certain actions takes away from your bar. You know, it's a game of decisions where you have not very complicated stats to manage, but you do have to put some thought behind them. And the playthroughs of the teenagers are not very different. The only things that changes are the events with the characters that are reoccurring. You see different stuff when playing with the first teenager and seeing Zoe, opposed to the fifth teenager seeing the same character. Because as you choose teenagers towards the end of the game, the days are also going by, so the characters are in different stages of their lives. What is the countdown, you may ask? So, of course, the days go by because I'm not sure if it's the same event occurring, but it's basically a countdown to the revolution that is going to take place at the border, and I'm not sure if it's also some kind of campaign event that Tyrek is supposed to do or something. I think it's the countdown for both, but I can't really remember that detail. But it's very interesting. I was actually pretty happy with what I was able to do. I was able to, so in 16s, I was able to set 3 of them free, and I got one arrested because I was just, not paying attention. I had to hold my breath, and I released when I shouldn't, and that teenager was caught. There was also one of the teenagers that died. Yes, there are, last longing consequences to some of your decisions, because it was one of the last teenagers. I was escaping with Zoe, and Zoe tripped, and I had the option of either crossing the board or save Zoe, and I was like, I'm gonna help Zoe, and by saving Zoe we were being hunted down, and that teenager died. Then on your last playthrough, that's the last playthrough is the one with the most differences when you reach the border, because for all the other ones you are choosing different paths for you to cross the border. You have different options for you to cross. And of course, as the game goes by and the news about teenagers escaping arise, they also make the border more difficult to cross. So crossing in the beginning is very easy when opposed to the last teenagers that are crossing. And in the last teenager, you aren't even able to cross the border because there's been too many teenagers being successful, and you are actually arrested when arriving at the border. But of course, the brigades are also trying to break the border, trying to break in, release the people. I remember that I had one last choice that I could make. So I could join the fight for the revolution or escape. And I decided that I wanted to escape because I was like, it's a teen, let's escape. Zoe was actually leading the revolution, the kids that were crossing the border, and you hear gunshots because Tyrek, he sees the confusion and he's like, no more nice guy appearance, just shoot them all. And you saw Zoe fall, but then when they are saying what happened after that event, Zoe is talking, and I mean, she talks as if the revolution was a success. Tyrek's opponent, which was Flores, was able to take over. She won with majority in the election. And Zoe is describing this, so I assume she survived, but it doesn't really make sense because I saw her getting shot. Not sure what happened there, honestly. Also, even though you don't really contact with Flores, so Flores is the big opponent against Tyrek, and while you are doing your trips, there are moments where you can do political statements. And I think the game is very straightforward. It's not one of those games where it's like, Tyrek is supposed to be a dictator, but maybe it's something of a perspective, It's not really, it's one of those, no. Tyrek is indeed a dictator, and Flores is the representative of democracy. So you can do political statements, you can take down Tyrek posters, put up Flores posters, you can also, when people ask you certain things, you can also choose if you want to do like a neutral comment, if you want to support Tyrek, if you want to support Flores, and you have to see which one you want to give, because sometimes it's just conversation, sometimes it may have consequences for your side. I think it's a game with a very interesting story, very straightforward gameplay. Sometimes you are exploring the area, seeing what items you can pick up, what puzzles you can solve, interacting with characters that are in the vicinity. Sometimes you are just stuck in one place and the only thing you have to do is choose dialogue options. And all of them, of course, affect the relationships you have with the characters. Because yes, the reoccurring characters that appear have relationships that you can fill up. For example, I got 100% on my relationship with both Zoe and Alex. And they appeared on the last scenes of the game. So I don't know what happens if you do that for all the characters. But those were the ones I was able to do blindly. I had a lot of fun with this game. I do recommend it. I think it also has a very big replayable value. I did only one playthrough, just took my consequences and accepted them, but you can always do repeated playthroughs. I'm not sure it will have a lot of value after playthrough number 3 or 4, but it does have some replayability value for you to see different options, different outcomes, and it's just a very fun decision-based game. I also love the soundtrack. It's more of a pop slash indie pop kind of soundtrack, but I had a lot of fun. There were moments where I was just vibing to the soundtrack and it just fit every moment. It was amazing. Also, I want to just, because there was a musical minigame where you are with Zoe and she invites you to play Bella Ciao on the trombone. And that's so difficult and it was so funny and so fun. It was like having a little bit of trombone champ on this game. And you have a lot of mini games that appear during the game, so it's just, I really recommend it. The art style is amazing. I really like it. It fits. I like the conversations and the voice acting, the soundtrack. I think everything about this game is a real treat. And it's not a very long game, but it just leaves you satisfied in the end. At least for my results. Of course, if you maybe do a more chaotic playthrough, I guess, where you are supporting Tyrek or not doing a lot for the good of the country, maybe it's not as rewarding, but I had a lot of fun and I do recommend it. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have played the game, please share your outcomes in the comments. If you have never played the game, please do tell me if you are interested in knowing more. And for all this content, don't forget I always play my games first on Twitch Live. Don't forget to leave a like in this video, subscribe to support my channel, and I'll see you next time. May music always be your life force.